Hello and welcome back to my studio. This is video 2 in my series on how I process suri alpaca fiber from farm to fashion. In my last video, I went over how I sort and clean the fiber and get it ready for this stage, which is where I card it and get it ready to make my bat so that I can spin it into beautiful silky satiny yarn. So in the last video, we were working with Regis's fiber, who was a white alpaca. I already have a project going right now, and I am actually making yarn using one of our male alpacas, Coley, who is a true black. So we went from white to black. Coley has beautiful silky satiny fiber. His fiber is actually very easy to work with. It's not quite as fine as some of my other alpacas, which ironically makes it a little easier to spin and a little bit easier to card. Like I said, he is a true black, but every now and then we'll have a strand of silver, which adds just this beautiful dimension. You'll see here, this is my, my carding table. And in this bag here is some beautiful, clean, already sorted fiber of Coley's. And I think you can really see the shine in his fiber. It's a lot easier with the black fiber to see that suri. That is that satiny shine that you want in your suri fiber. In the cleaning process, no matter how hard you try, you still end up with a little bit of a mess of fiber. Even though I clean in tepid water, I don't agitate it, it still kind of knots up. It still tries to felt. So this is why you got to be kind of extra careful. But all of this fiber is nice and clean and ready to go through this process. There's no dust, there's no dirt. You might find the odd little piece of hay. There's a tiny little piece there, but you'll see that as I comb it and get it ready to go into my carder, we'll be able to pick out any of those little stragglers. So on my table here, you'll see that I actually have a Ashford drum carder. It's a hand crank. You can get them with the electric motor. I really prefer the control that I can get with the hand crank, especially working with suri fiber. It's a little bit more picky. I have to be a little bit more careful with how it loads into the drum carder. Just, when you're getting your fiber ready to spin, you want to get as close to top as you can. So you want it as much of your fibers to be going all one direction as you can. And so it has to be a little bit, in my experience, it has to be a little bit more controlled. So I really do like the Ashford carder. The Ashford has this beautiful brush feature, which is awesome because it helps push the fiber down. You can adjust it how tight you want it just by spinning these knobs. So I really do enjoy my Ashford. It's an 8-inch drum, so it makes 8-inch wide bats. So it's not the biggest that you can get, but it's definitely not the smallest. And I find that it's a really nice, manageable size carder to work with. As you can see, I don't load my carder all the way to the edge. I've actually almost got this one completely ready to pull a bat off, but I wanted to load it just so that you can see how I brush and load it and get it ready for a bat. And it's almost full. You can see it's not completely grabbing. So at this point, I would probably pull this off, but I'm going to give you an example of how I load it and brush it on there. A couple of other things I have on my table is I have hand carders. I do not hand card my suri. It's a little too flyaway for hand cards. I find it a little bit hard to manage. This is where the beauty of this is, but I do use my hand carders to pre-brush, and you're going to see why I do that. It's an extra step. It does create a little bit more labor into your yarn creation, but you'll see how much I pull off and how crucial it is. I've tried to do it without running it through the hand carder first, and I just don't like the quality of the yarn that I end up with. There's just too many little tiny knots. I prefer to comb it first and then put it through, and I'll show you that. I've also got my handy dandy water bottle. When you're working with suri fiber, it's a really good idea to have some water close by because it does get staticky after a while. It can get fly away, especially here. Right now it's raining. You can hear the pitter patter on the roof. I actually have a metal roof in my studio, so sorry if that's loud on the video. But normally I have a very dry environment. I have heaters in here, so it does make it even drier. So just having this is really nice because I can just give this a little spritz and it helps kind of keep the flyaways down. Some people do use fabric softener. They mix a little bit of fabric softener in with their water. I try to keep everything as chemical free as possible, so I just use straight water and it dries really quickly. Another little tool I have here is a teeny tiny crochet hook. When you're working with suri fiber, you're going to be working with equipment that have a lot of teeth. So this teeny tiny hook is actually really great. You can see it grabs the fiber out of the teeth, and the same thing when you're pulling your fiber off of your big drum as well. So I really do like having my little teeny tiny crochet hook. Like I said, I have hand carders. They come in, sorry, I grabbed my other yarn. They come in a set of 2 because of course when you're hand carding, you're doing this. Because I don't use them the way I don't hand card, I keep one for my dark fibers and one for my white fibers. As much as I try, I still end up with fibers stuck in my carders. I can clean them as much as I want, and I still end up with a lot of fiber that's not dirt, that is just black fiber. Because like I said, I've been working on a project. I've already got a bobbin full of yarn that I've already spun of Coley's fiber, so this has been an ongoing project. So I haven't really cleaned this carder yet, but trust me, it doesn't get a whole lot better than this anyway. And then this one I use for my lighter fibers, my light fawns and my whites, so that if I do end up picking up any other fiber, it's not going to be as noticeable. I have my bag of clean fiber. This bag was completely full when I first started. It was about 3 ounces of fiber. And now I am down to maybe not quite an ounce of fiber. But again, I have a full drum. I also have a bat over here that I'll show you. So I'll have enough to make a whole other bobbin so that I can have a 2-ply yarn. And then in this bag, this is my byproduct. I had mentioned in my first video, when you send it off to a mill, you end up losing a lot of product. And by doing it myself, I get to keep a lot of my byproduct and I get to use it for other projects. I will show you an example of what you can use this byproduct. So this byproduct is nice and clean because we're only working with fiber that's already been cleaned. So it is suri fiber that has been cleaned and brushed, and it's perfect for needle felting. And I will show you what you can create with that. Just a little example. So whenever you're making your yarn, you want, like I said, you want all your fiber to be as taut as possible. You want all your fibers to be going the same direction as possible. It's a little bit harder with suri because it's so silky, it's so slippery, it's so satiny, which makes a beautiful, dense, soft yarn, but it can be a bit of a bear to work with. So what I do is I've added this other step, and you're gonna see why. So when you clean it, I mean, it's really not that easy to work with the way that it is. If this was a wool or if this was wakaya, then you could rely on your drum to do the work for you. You would just take it, you would load it in here, you'd hand crank it, and it would organize your fiber. You might have to run it through once or twice, but it should do the trick. Suri, I find, is not that simple. I don't even load my brush stuff through here. I actually lay it directly onto the drum, because you'll see why. If I load it through here, what I find is I get fibers going the wrong direction, fibers going this way. I also get a hook on my fiber, which when you're spinning, you don't want that little knobby hook. It just doesn't pull apart very nicely. So this is what I do. I use my hand carders and I pull apart my fiber, and for the most part, it's going the right direction. But you can see you've got these little tiny little knots in there just from the washing process, that little bit of felting. It might not be going quite the right direction. You might even have some short fibers that didn't get sorted out through the washing process, the sorting and washing process. So what I do is I go to my hand carder and I do a similar process as I did with my dog comb, but with this I'm doing with the hand carder. Again, you're probably not going to hear it that well because of the rain on the roof, but you can kind of sometimes hear it grabbing the stuff you don't want. So I brush it through twice, and then I take it and I lay my nice brush stuff in the middle. And you can see it's already grabbed some short stuff. If it's shorter than this, I don't want it in my yarn. It's just too hard to process. It makes flyaways in my yarn. So I'm going to use this as my felting material. It's going to go in this bag because it doesn't matter how short that is. So I'm going to grab another piece. This one's a little bit smaller, but you can see I've got some going in the wrong direction. I kind of give it a quick brush, make sure it's the right length, get out any tiny little knots, lay that down. I usually like to get bigger pieces though. No, it's too hard to work with the shorter pieces. So again, I'm grabbing it in the middle, I'm holding it nice and tight, and I'm just brushing out those tiny little knots that I don't want, those short fibers that I don't want in my finished yarn. It's helping to organize those fibers, getting them going the right direction, because your suri fiber is going to want to try to go back to its natural state of a curl after it's washed. So I'm trying to organize it and get it nice and straight and flat. Let me see if I can get a good piece here. Again, you can see there's some flyaways. Even on a damp, wet fall day like today, I'm still getting flyaways. I'm going to try to organize it a little bit better. You can hear it grabbing those knots. It's helping to organize those fibers. And I just keep brushing it a few times, pulling out those little pieces, and then laying it here. Grab this one. I'm going to do one more, and then I'll show you my next step. Brush it. You can hear it grabbing. Got one that's folded there. There we go. Piece there. There's a nice piece there that I missed. Okay, I would continue to do that. My drum carder is actually almost full now, but I just wanted to show you this first step that I do before I take it to my drum carder. But normally I would continue to do that until I've got about a one inch to an inch and a half here, or sorry, 1.5 inches to 2 inches wide piece. But this is all that I'm going to do for right now. So I take this, I pull this off. It pulls off nice and easy. It's all going the right direction. That's how we want it to go. And the way that I load it in my carder, again, you can load it this way, but I find that with suri, it just doesn't work that well that way. So what I do is I actually lay it across the main drum. I'm still holding on to the end here. I hope you can see this okay. And then I hand crank as I'm holding it with my thumb and just kind of letting the carder pull it out of my hand. And that's it. And it's in my carder. It's all going the same direction. I don't have to worry about any fibers going the wrong way. I don't have to worry about any hooks that could be created by going through this one first. And then now that I've got a nice full card, I've already got a bat over there, but normally I would line this up down here, use my pick, pull it off, gently pull it off and lay it down, and it would be ready to spin in a bat because I spin for my bats. So let's go back to this guy. Again, we were talking about my waste product or byproduct. So this is where my little hook comes in handy. I just pop this right off. This is nice and clean. It's already combed. And this goes into my needle felting bag. So this is already clean, and you know that you need, if you've ever done needle felting, you need it to be nice and brushed and fluffy to needle felt. And with suri fiber more so because it's got that satiny feel. So suri fiber is not as easy to felt, just like it's not as easy to spin. But when it's like this, it's perfect. It's already clean, and you can needle felt. And I've got a little sample of something that I've already done. And this was just with the cookie cutters, little needle felting cookie cutters. You can make these cute little ornaments. I've got little Christmas bows that I'm going to put on them and little ribbon, and they'll make little Christmas ornaments for Christmas trees. Just a little tiny, quick, easy sample of what you can make. And this is done with Coley's fiber with needle felting. So again, I don't waste anything. If I can keep it and I can reuse it for something else, my alpacas work really hard to create this fiber. So I'm going to try to use as much of it as I can. So now we're going to go from the bat. I would pull it, from the drum carder. I would pull it off as a bat. I'm going to give you a little bit of a spin here with the camera. So this is the actual bat that I spin from. And you can see I've already pulled off a piece. I'll pull off another piece just so that you know when I'm ready to spin. I just pull off a chunk like this. And you can see it actually, as I'm spinning, it pulls apart really nicely. I've gotten as much fiber going the right direction as I can, and it's ready to make a beautiful, and what I'm doing with Coley's fiber right now, I've already got a bobbin that's ready to ply. I'm gonna make a whole other bobbin. I should have enough between these two bats to make another bobbin, but you can see this is the beautiful yarn, silky, satiny, nice and strong, and it's gonna be a 2-ply yarn for a project that I have coming up. And that is the process of getting it ready to spin on my little spinning wheel that's over here in the corner. I don't know if you can see it off to the side. I hope that that was informative. I hope that it kind of gave you an idea of the next step in my farm to fashion process with suri fiber. If there's something that you want to know a little bit more of, if you want to see me pulling stuff off the drum carder, if you want to see more of the combing, or if I missed a step that you want more information on, then just send me a message. If you have any questions, I'll answer them as best as I can. Or if you need something a little bit more detailed, I can try to make another video. I do plan on making a needle felting video to show you how to make those cute little Christmas ornaments. But yeah, so that's my process. I hope it was informative. I hope it helped you see the process a little bit easier. And if you have any questions, just message me. But otherwise, thanks for watching.